All right, this is our week 0 film review coming out of week 0. So we're going to talk about 4 plays today. All of them a little complicated, a little tricky, some of them pretty interesting. So we're going to start with this play right here where we end up with a drop snap, bad snap, and a play right around the goal line. So let's watch the play here for a second. Bad snap over his head, and he was retrieving the ball, and he falls on it around the 1 yard line, slides into the end zone. Okay. There was some discussion, especially from the opposing coach, about whether he secured possession or not before he slid into the end zone. So the ball's not dead until he has possession of the ball on the ground. That's a true statement. Okay. But if we're playing around the goal line here, and the question is, are we going to award a safety or not? We need to be absolutely sure that he does not have possession until the ball was in the end zone. So if we think he's possessing this ball at the 1 yard line, then that's where it's down at. So this is a very good job of what I would call preventative officiating, because you're going to open a whole can of worms if you give award a safety here and it not be 100%. So we need to be 100% before we award a safety. All right. This, if we had instant replay review from multiple angles, maybe it is, maybe it didn't. But we do the best we can with what we can see in a moment. And never award a safety unless you're 100%. So this is a good job right here of putting this thing down at the 1 yard line, playing from there. All right, next clip, we have what turns into a scrimmage kick. We start off in not a scrimmage kick formation. And then we're going to shift. So it's 4th down. If you look at the top of the screen, relevant here is the ball is on the 41 yard line. So our line of scrimmage is the 41. So all officials, especially short wings, we should always know where we are and where we're going. And in between where you are and where you're going is another line that becomes important a lot, and that is the expanded neutral zone. So 41 is the line of scrimmage. That makes the 43 be the expanded neutral zone. It's 4th and long. We shouldn't be anticipating a punt of some kind. So we've got to look at the scoreboard at the bottom. Close game. All right, 2nd quarter. So we should be anticipating a punt. They line up like they're not going to. Then they shift. So now we're going to punt. Quick note, he's not 10 yards deep, okay? He's sitting at 9 yards deep. So this makes this not a scrimmage kick formation. So we do not have snapper protection, number 1. Number 2, it is not clear and obvious from the formation that he's going to kick the ball. If he makes it clear and obvious after he receives the snap, then he's got kicker protection as normal. But if it's not clear and obvious he's going to kick the ball, he's not as protected as he would be. So let's see what happens. We're going to snap, rugby around to the right, kick the ball, okay? So when he starts that rugby stuff, it is definitely not clear and obvious that he's going to kick the ball. So he can be contacted way more here than he would be otherwise. All right, but he's not really contacted, but the kick is not a very good one. And it contacts a return team member at about the 44-yard line. So the point here is that at this point, even though this is a bad kick and a kind of an interesting play by the kicking team, R has now touched the ball beyond the expanded neutral zone. So this has what we say broken the continuity of downs, okay? So it's going to now, at this point, be 1st and 10 for somebody, whoever recovers this ball. This is now a ball free for the taking. Now, if the ball rebounds behind the original line of scrimmage, then K can not only recover it, they could advance it. If it stays beyond the line of scrimmage, K can recover it, but they can't advance it. They'll get to keep it 1st and 10. Wherever R covers it, they can keep it 1st and 10, or they can pick it up and advance it. But main point here is to know where that expanded neutral zone line is, because that is beyond it. Okay, so that touching is not ignored. The rule book says that when R touches a kick in or behind the expanded neutral zone, it's ignored. That touch is not ignored. So we're going to call that a muffed punt. and whoever gets it is going to get to keep it 1st and 10. Now R falls on it, ends up gaining possession of the ball. Okay, no big deal. All right, but there's a lot of things that could happen right there. All right, and we have to know where those lines are. We have to know where that line of scrimmage is. We have to know where that expanded neutral zone is, because that play right there had the potential to turn into something very, very interesting. Next clip. Let's talk targeting a little bit. I don't think we've mentioned that much this year. It's always been a big topic, still a big topic. It's gotten a little bit less so, but for years there, it was the major topic. Everybody worried about what is and what is not targeting. So let's look at this play and see if we can decide which one this is. So here comes our runner, and we get high contact. Okay, no doubt, definitely high contact. Okay, but there's several things we have to piece together here. The first thing is we have to decide, is this ball carrier, is this offensive player a defenseless player? And right at this point, he's a runner. Okay, ball in hand, he's caught the pass, he's established himself, he's turning upfield. He's a runner. Okay, so he is not defenseless. All right, he is just a runner. So if he were defenseless, okay, then he cannot be hit in the head even by accident. The defender is responsible for not contacting a defenseless player above the shoulders. But this is not a defenseless player, so the rule is a little different. Okay, so let's read the rule for targeting. Targeting is an act by any player who takes aim and initiates contact against an opponent above the shoulders with helmet, forearm, hand, fist, elbow, or shoulders. So we have to decide here if this is intentional or not. Okay, so did he take aim? Now our rule book doesn't talk about launch. College rule book, NFL, when you watch TV on Saturday, they talk about whether someone launched or not. Our rule book doesn't have that terminology, but that's what we mean when we talk about taking aim. Okay, so you can make an argument here that he may have launched at him. You can also make a counter argument that he's just already high. He's taller than the other player. Okay, he appears to be taller than the runner. The runner gets underneath him. When that happens, you're going to get helmet contact. Okay, so is this intentional? All right, did he initiate that contact? Did he take aim? You think about the initiate part, you've got to take it. Who's running the fastest right here? The runner is full speed. The tackler sort of breaks down and stops his feet. So you could make an argument that the runner initiated the contact. You could also make an argument that the tackler took aim. So these get pretty gray, all right? These get tough, okay? Just remember that if he's not defenseless, then the level is a little higher. The scrutiny is a little higher as to what we got to have before we can call this targeting, all right? So I'm okay if it is, if you call it that, okay? Safety first, right? Safety first. But let's just be careful, okay? Let's not let a short player run under a tall player and sort of bait us into a foul that might not be one. All right, 2 points on this one. One is a reminder, and others talk about a mechanical issue. One is a reminder that linemen cannot grab each other. So if you look closely, it's a little hard to see, but if you look closely, especially on this left side, when they step down on this try field goal here, the linemen are stepping down and they're grabbing their teammate's leg. That's interlocked blocking. Okay, that's a foul. Can't do that. All right. But we're going to go with the idea that we knew that already. So let's just talk about how we see that, because that's where it gets complicated. All right. Field goals are very quick plays. Snap, hold, kick, it's over. Right. So when they do something like this, the trick is, how do we get somebody's eyes on that? Okay. Well, let's talk umpire and referee here. All right. For the sake of conversation, the short wing, if you see it, call it. Okay. Is a short wing, are you going to be able to see that from the angle you have? Maybe not. Okay. But if you do, by all means, you can call it. All right. Now, let's talk umpire first. So, first priority for the umpire is to make sure the snapper is protected, right? So we're going to make sure that snapper doesn't get hit. If you look right here, all right, so at the snap, move it forward here just a little bit. At the snap, All right, right there, snapper's pretty good. He's clear. Nobody's going to hit him. Okay. All right. So as soon as you know he's good, you can turn your head and look down the line. The trick is by the time you might do that, now we just got a wad of players. Okay. But check your snapper, then check your lineman. That's a very quick progression. It's almost instantaneous. It's snapper's good. Where's the lineman? Okay. If they're grabbing each other, if they're holding each other, then call it, right? If your snapper's threatened, then you got to stay on the snapper. Okay. Let's talk about the referee for just a second. So the referee has immediate thing to do is to see if the holder catches the snap clean. All right. They got to see that first because there's a lot of things that can happen if that snap gets bobbled. Can he get up? Can he sit back down and all that? Okay. So he has to see that first. Then he's got to see if the kicker or the holder get fouled after the kick is made. There's a split second of time in there, and this is difficult. I'm not saying this. That's why we put these clips like this on our review because this is hard stuff to do. All right, but there's a split second of time in there that if you could train your eyes to take a look back at those linemen. Okay, so the holder's got the ball. At this point, if the referee were to glance back here, he could pick up on this interlock blocking. Then, as soon as the kick is made, he's got to check back here to the kicker and the holder to make sure there's no foul. All right. And all of that is what we call eye progression. Okay. So we have, and it's very similar to man zone man in a regular play, in a normal football play. It's a little harder on a field goal because everything happens so fast. Your man to man progression has to go in almost fractions of a second, which is very difficult. All right. But that's what we're trying to advance ourselves to. All right. So if I'm the referee, I see the snap, I see the hold, I go back to the lineman, I come back to the holder and the kicker. If I'm the umpire, I see the snap, I watch the snapper, I go to the lineman. Okay. Clean up the arguments after the play. All right. All right. That was it. Thank y'all very much. That was week 0. We had a good weekend. Everything went well. Good luck this week.